Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, aka Def Vader, and with The Rise of Skywalker now out for release, the Star Wars sequel trilogy has come to an end. Throughout this video, we're going to be breaking down everything that you need to know about the movie and giving our theories on some of the things it leaves unexplained. We'll also be discussing the ending, our thoughts on the film overall, and whether it's worth going to see. So if you want to know if this movie is the chosen one, or if it ends up going to the dark side, then this is the video for you. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to watch The Rise of Skywalker yet, and don't want to know what happens, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. With that out of the way, I just want to give a huge thank you for clicking this video. Now let's get into our breakdown of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, so The Rise of Skywalker, it basically revolves around several MacGuffins in order to drive the plot. It's a MacGuffin Russian doll, and the opening of the movie centers around Kylo Ren searching for a device known as the Wayfinder that will guide whoever has it to a Sith palace on Exegol. I don't really know if it's a palace, but it has a throne, subjects, cavalry, and almost a kingdom-like aesthetic. Kylo finds it during the introductory scene and travels to Exegol in a moment that was shown heavily in last week's TV spot. Upon arriving there, not only does the character discover that Supreme Leader Snoke was a clone, but he also comes across Darth Sidious, or rather Emperor Palpatine, who has been reduced to a frail and weak old man. Now, the film doesn't ever explain how Palpatine survived the destruction of the Death Star. However, if you cast your mind back to Revenge of the Sith, you'll remember that Palpatine discussed with Anakin that there was a Dark Lord known as Darth Plagueis who had a special ability. Actually, now we're on the subject, have I ever told you the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Well, he could control the midichlorians to create both life and even avoid death, and personally I think that this is the method that Palpatine used for his resurrection. When talking about this, he gives a little nod to the line that some consider the methods unnatural, which is the same thing that the character utters in the scene during Revenge of the Sith. We also discover in the film that Palpatine is Rey's grandfather, and I doubt that he was getting it on due to his pasty looking butthead, so he likely created her father, and then after turning his back on destiny, the character went on to father Rey. Star Wars has a big motif in the lore that says that every character has a destiny, and those that choose to run towards it will go on that path, whereas others that turn their back on it will avoid it. Rey's father clearly did this and spent the majority of his life on the run from his father's wishes. This pretty much ties into the overall aspect of family and destiny that is rampant throughout the movie, which I'm going to be discussing throughout this video. We'll get into that in just a bit though, and we learn that Palpatine has likely been controlling Snoke and sending out duplicates, and this is why the scars on the character's head look slightly different in The Force Awakens to how they do in The Last Jedi. I may just be giving JJ a bit too much credit there, but yeah, that's just what I thought. Retroactively, he's been behind everything, controlling it all from the shadows, which, yeah, in my opinion, lazy and desperate writing. The opening crawl kind of tries to cram this all in one go to make it feel like it had some setup, but I think it's clear that Palpatine was never really supposed to be a part of this trilogy. Another thing that they don't really explain is how Luke's lightsaber was fixed after it was torn in two in The Last Jedi. We do know, however, from behind the scenes images that Rey used a binder to join the pieces, and this can be seen at certain parts in the film, such as when Leia hands it over. Basically it's like tape when you break your spectacles. This picture on screen now is a visual representation of JJ fixing Star Wars, and yet though a lot of things go unexplained, those were kind of the two main things that I saw people wondering about, so I just thought I'd cover them here. Now, when the film's not blasting through scenes in order for the characters to go basically from item to item in order to unearth the location of Exegol, it's tackling identity, and this is seen throughout all of the main characters. Finn is a stormtrooper turned resistance hero, and he finds kinship in characters like Janna, who were stripped away from their families. Though it's never out and out stated in the movie, originally it was revealed in the supplementary material and leaks that Lando was a father and that the two were separated on Pasaana by the First Order. The former remained on the planet, living an almost hermit lifestyle, whereas Janna was forced into combat before she eventually put her arms down and proceeded to fight back. The two don't out and out say it, but from the leaks and their dialogue, I think we can draw the conclusion here. Mirroring this, Poe is trying to hide from his past, not really accepting that he used to be a spice runner. However, after he reconnects with someone that he used to do jobs with, he seems much more accepting of what he's been through and how it's shaped him into the person that he now is. Hux is a spy working within the First Order, C-3PO loses his memory, and though he eventually gets it back, his quote-unquote death scene, it does feel like we're losing a big part of what made him, well, him. Above all this though, the true conflict of identity comes with both our two main players, Rey and Ren, or Reylo if you're into that kind of thing, who tackle with the duality of their personalities throughout the majority of the film. Since killing his father, Ren has been torn between the light and dark side, and though he tends to veer more towards the latter, trying to turn Rey at every chance he gets, it's actually he who ends up swaying back to the light. This comes during the battle with Rey on the Death Star 2 wreckage, in which his mother dies whilst trying to reach out to him one more time. This distracts him long enough that Rey is able to stab him, steal his ship and head to Ahch-To, bless you, to cut herself off from the Force. Left stranded, Han Solo appears and the two pretty much have the conversation that they had on the bridge, except this time it has the added weight for Ren that he has lost all of his family, the ones he cared about, and that it's foolish to continue on this dark path, especially when he cares for Rey. It's probably the best part of the film, and I doubt that anyone had any trouble with seeing Han return and change his son in the way that he so desperately wanted to in The Force Awakens. This could have very easily been a turn like Daenerys in Season 8 of Game of Thrones, but thankfully, at least this moment is well paced and has gravitas. Mirroring this, Rey, who throughout the entire trilogy has been desperate to find a family, really goes on a journey this time to try and reconnect with her roots and discover who she really is. There's even a point in the movie where she gets asked her name, and though I was hoping she'd turn around and say Bond, James Bond, it's clear that she's torn apart by not really knowing. It's very much a case of be careful what you wish for though, as she learns probably at the midpoint of the movie that she's a Palpatine and that the Emperor has been hunting her throughout her life in order to bestow upon her what he sees as her birthright. She's confronted by a dark version of herself that easily bests her, and at several points during the movie she gives into anger and rage, using Force lightning at one point and also Force pushing Finn. He had something to tell her, but I don't know what it was, because we'll never find out. That was a really stupid thing to say that in the movie. Anyway, after jumping through hoops to get to Exegol, Rey finally comes face to face with her grandfather. Almost a husk, he has the entirety of the Sith living through him and wants Rey to participate in the ritual of striking him down. This will cause the Sith and Palpatine to inhabit her, and as the new Empress Palpatine would... Still makes me laugh a bit when I say it, she will rule the galaxy. At this point, Ben has become a Jedi again, and he helps her in the finale, which centers on the two tackling Palpatine, whilst the Resistance fleet fights the Final Order. There's cameos from Wedge, and almost an on your left moment from Lando that copies the Avengers Endgame a bit shamelessly, but we'll not talk about that. At the center of it all though is Rey's battle between her family and which choice to make. Does she turn to the light, possibly dooming her friends, or accept that she is the new one true Emperor? Now, you don't have to be a genius to know which option she goes with, but unwittingly due to their Force bond, Rey and Ren combined have enough power that their life force rejuvenates the Emperor when tapped into. Ren tries to fight back but is cast aside, but Rey stands strong, and through the Jedi, her new family that now live within her, she manages to fight back. The Jedi, most notably Luke and Leia, knew her true identity, but they still trusted that she could bring balance to the Force and decided to train her anyway, trusting in her in the same way that Yoda and Obi-Wan trusted in Luke. Now, they could have cast him to the side because he was a Skywalker, but yeah, they saw that she was a Palpatine and decided, hey, maybe not everyone is controlled by destiny. She's able to destroy Palpatine, doing the old reflect the lightning back with a lightsaber trick, and the fleet destroy the Final Order, saving the galaxy. This has a massive cost on Rey, and it actually kills her. However, Kylo is still alive, and he gives up all of his life force in order to force heal her. We've seen this teased through The Mandalorian recently, and also throughout the movie, and this use of the Force in a positive way allows her to come back to life. The two share a kiss, and then Ben dies, fading away like the Jedi do when they pass away. With everyone defeated and the galaxy back in harmony, Rey journeys to Tatooine, most notably Luke's home, where she buries not only his lightsaber, but Leia's as well. I kinda saw this as a closing of the book, and a visual representation of the past finally being buried, which was a big plot motif of The Last Jedi. A passerby who just happens to be in the scene says no one's visited there for a long time, and she asks who she is. Rey pauses and looks out into the distance where Luke and Leia appear as Force ghosts, and she answers, Rey Skywalker. I took this as her finally accepting her identity and showing her allegiances and who her true family are. Her father's a great example of this, and just because you're born to a certain family, it doesn't make you tied to it. You can choose your own destiny. She also sparks up a yellow lightsaber, which is the first time that I think we've seen one in a Star Wars film, but yet don't quote me on that, there was a lot of them during Attack of the Clones. However, I do think this holds some significance, and yellow for me has symbolism as it's a mix between green and red, and this shows that Rey has both accepted her Sith lineage and the Jedi side of her, which could be a nod to Luke's green lightsaber, and I took this as her finally putting in stone who she really is. She stares out onto the twin sunset of the planet, finally knowing who she is, and yep, either way you look at it, a Palpatine still rules the galaxy. Ha! We got him! Okay, so what did I think of the movie overall? Well, what a mess. From the opening crawl all the way to the end, this film feels like a Sarlacc pit of death, sucking all the goodwill that I had for the franchise and digesting it slowly over thousands of years in the most painful way possible. The movie just reeks of poor planning, and though it tried to do a lot of course correction from The Last Jedi, personally, I think it may have been better if they just went in that direction instead of trying to right all the wrongs of the prior movie and thus not having enough time to develop their own moments. They tried to change things so much that they'll annoy fans of The Last Jedi, and also people who hated The Last Jedi will be annoyed with how underdeveloped this story is because it tries to focus on new things so much. They just didn't set up any of this film in the last movie, so now they have to set it up as fast as possible, and because of this, the pacing is so rushed. I don't know why there's been some big thing set in stone now where Star Wars films have to be divided into trilogies, because this needed a fourth movie in order to tell a complete story. Like, remember when Infinity War was announced? Everyone was like, it'll be the end of the Avengers trilogy. However, they couldn't tell the full story in that film, so guess what? They just made another movie, which would have been the smart thing to do here as well. Like, you idiots. I think it's very obvious that Palpatine wasn't supposed to be in this film, and there was even a lot of rumours that were flying about that Matt Smith would be the villain, but I guess this was changed in the reshoots. The movie itself, it exemplifies all of the mistakes in Lucasfilm. There was no creative direction from the off, and because of Kathleen Kennedy's lack of plan, the movie is all over the place. They clearly didn't have the foresight to map out all of the movies, and now they're trying to use a wayfinder to get there. This film really suffers, and whilst I don't think it's as bad as The Phantom Menace or even Attack of the Clones, as far as satisfying conclusions go, this is a complete dud. This exemplifies the difference between Marvel and Lucasfilm. You have Kevin Feige, who has everything planned out, well thought out of ahead of time, he lays the groundwork for it, and then Kathleen Kennedy, who just makes it up as she goes along. Yep, it's just a mess. It's crazy to think that this is the end of the trilogy, and with the controversy surrounding it, the huge plot leaks and so on, I don't know how there's not going to be a lot of firings in the next couple of months. So yeah, very, very disappointing film, and this is how Star Wars dies to thunderous applause. Disney brought balance to the Force, just not in the way that they expected. They tried to please everyone, and ultimately ended up pleasing no one, and that's why the movie gets a 5 out of 10. I actually think The Last Jedi is better, like genuinely, it's a much better movie. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker, so make sure you leave them in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video then force push that like button. If you want something Star Wars related that's a lot better than this, then make sure you check out my full breakdown of The Mandalorian episode 7, which will be linked at the end. We go over all of the Easter eggs and things you need to know about the show, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. If you want to come chat to me after the video, then make sure you follow me on Twitter at DefinitionYT, or head over to my Discord server, which will be linked in the description below. We drop videos on there early, so if you want to see stuff before anyone else, then that's the best place to be. It's free to join and we have an awesome community, so hopefully I'll see you over there very soon. We're also giving away a free copy of Joker, which is one of our favourite movies of the year, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker in the comments section below. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 15th of January and the set will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. This is a channel for people who are mad into movies, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this. I've been Definition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.